We have breaking news. This is amazing news. We now have secured the 50th vote needed to pass the SAVE Act, folks. I put it in my book in the chapter on election integrity. I've been talking about it since day one of this term with President Trump. I've been saying it all along. We have got to pass the SAVE Act. We have been pushing for it. We've been doing civic activism. I've been doing videos on it. I've been putting the numbers out, getting people to call, whatever we can do. And of course, it wasn't just me. I mean, Scott Pressler, God bless him for doing what he's been doing as far as that. Nicki Minaj, Elon Musk, all the great conservatives out there on social media, all the major people. Senator Mike Lee has been amazing. Representative Anna Paulina Luna has been absolutely incredible. God bless each and every one of you patriots, my audience, all the audiences out there. This was a collective effort. Now, let's get into this. This is amazing news. You will remember this for the rest of your lives, okay? With Vice President J.D. Vance prepared to break the tiebreaker, supporters of the legislation now say that they have secured the amount of numbers needed, which is at least 50, to pass the bill in a standing talking filibuster scenario, marking a huge turning point in the GOP's longstanding efforts to implement national voter ID and proof of citizenship in order to vote in our federal elections. It can be recalled that Representative Luna revealed that the Senate leadership is moving towards nuking the so-called zombie filibuster and restoring the old-fashioned traditional one of a standing filibuster to advance the Save America Act, legislation that requires proof of citizenship to vote. According to Luna, John Thune signaled after a meeting with President Trump that the Senate is prepared to bring the SAVE Act to the floor of the Senate with the modern traditional way, without the modern way, but the traditional way of doing it, how they used to do it for decades and decades and decades, okay? And this would avoid the 60 vote fake zombie filibuster requirement. Senator Mike Lee, as I said earlier, has been amazing, absolutely amazing, just laser focused on this. So he wrote, I'm thrilled to receive the news that Senator Susan Collins of Maine has announced her support for the Save America Act. This is absolutely huge, as this was the numbers that we needed to pass it. Collins had previously expressed reservations about earlier iterations of the legislation, particularly provisions that would have required voters to present proof of citizenship, such as passports or birth certificates, each time they cast a ballot. Listen closely to the language here. However, according to reports from the Maine Wire, the current House-passed version of the Save America Act has removed that requirement, instead allowing state-issued identification to suffice, an adjustment Collins says was critical in securing her support. Requiring voters to produce passports or birth certificates on election day. That's the key word. On election day, as opposed to just a state-issued ID, would have placed an unnecessary burden on the voters. Guess what? I agree. But let me explain more. The provision is no longer in the bill, and dropping that requirement was key to getting my support, she said. The law is clear that in this country, only American citizens are eligible to vote in our federal elections, Collins added. In addition, having people provide an ID at the polls, just as they have done before for boarding an airplane, just like I said in my book, right? Checking into hotels or buying alcoholic beverages, is a simple reform that will improve the security of our federal elections and will help give people more confidence in the results. The current House-passed Save America Act still requires, this is the key, it still requires proof of citizenship before registering to vote, per the updated bill summary. So what does this mean? It means that instead of requiring, like Bernstein style, which would have been a photo ID and something else to prove that you're eligible to vote at the day that you vote, All they're doing is saying that it's now going to be mandatory in every single state to bring photo ID and prove with photo ID before you vote. But in order to even register to vote, you still have to have proof of citizenship just to register to vote. That is a big change because a lot of states, left-leaning states, they don't bother with that. They just allow you to just register with, some of them, not even an ID. That's how insane things have been, okay? So we got what we needed. So the only difference would be that you want to register to vote? Great. Prove that you're an American citizenship. Okay. Birth certificate, passport, excellent. Now, here's your voter ID with a picture. Remember, when you go to vote, you need to bring your ID or you can't vote. So what I'm saying here is we've won. We have won. Okay? Now, listen to this. The current House passed bill still requires the proof. The bill would require photo ID at all polling places and mandate states obtain proof of citizenship before registering a person to vote. Collins' endorsement comes with one critical caveat that may frustrate some on the right. She is drawing a firm red line when it comes to eliminating the Senate's legislative 60-vote threshold filibuster in order to pass the bill. I oppose eliminating the legislative filibuster, Collins said. Now, I want to stop right there because some of you hearing this and watching me are thinking, well, where's the shoe going to fall, right? What's the but that's coming, right? Well, there's not really a major big but here, okay? Not a Nicki Minaj type of but here, okay? Listen to this. This is her, and honestly, I agree with her. The filibuster is an important protection for the rights of the minority party, and it requires senators to work together in the best interest of the country. Removing that protection would, for example, allow a future Senate controlled by Democrats to pass provisions on anything they want. DC statehood, open borders, packing the Supreme Court, and all they would need would be a simple majority of senators. She warned that dismantling the 60-vote threshold could pave the way for sweeping progressive legislation in the future. Removing this protection would, for example, allow a future Congress controlled by the Democrats to pass pretty much anything they want with no Republican support and no way to stop it. If passed, the Save America Act would mark the most significant overhaul of federal election law in decades, codifying citizenship verification into statute in every single state and restoring confidence in the integrity of our U.S. elections ahead of the 2026 midterms and beyond. With the 50 Republican senators now committed and J.D. Vance on standby, the path forward for the SAVE Act may be clearer than ever before. Now, I want to touch on a couple of things. I have said to you, as everyone on social media is screaming, nuke the filibuster, get rid of the filibuster, if we don't do it, the left will, right? And I understand the argument. Trust me, I do. But what was I saying months ago? I said, here's why I'm against it. And what did I say? Imagine if we're, God forbid, in the minority in the future, and there's no filibuster anymore. They're going to pass everything. H.R. 1, federalize our elections, statehood, just like Susan Collins said. Okay? So I have to say, as hard as this is, I agree with Senator Susan Collins here. I truly do. Now, the flip side of that, what we don't know is, and this is the scary part, and this is where I may disagree with her, or at least I'm thinking not like a senator. God forbid we have some communist that somehow takes over in the future, which is going to be a lot harder to do now with voter ID, right? It's going to be a lot harder for them. But let's just say something, God forbid, happens, right? And now all of a sudden, there's the filibusters in place, but somehow they go and they try to nuke it and for whatever reason, there's more Democrats than Republicans. Maybe the Senate is controlled and the House is controlled, and it was a wipeout of Republicans. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it has happened in the past where Democrats have had a 60-vote majority in the House and a 10-vote majority, in the Senate. In other words, they'd have enough votes to nuke the 60-vote filibuster. Do you follow what I'm saying? So, will they abandon hundreds of years of the Senate protocol and precedent and decorum? I mean, if we're at that point, we're probably in civil war anyway. So here's my thought on this. Eliminating it and going back to the traditional way. In other words, the 60 vote threshold is still there, but not for this one piece of legislation, the SAVE Act. So in other words, in order to pass the SAVE Act, we are going back to the talking filibuster. Now, what is the talking filibuster? Well, basically, whoever's against this bill has to talk. They've got to bullshit themselves. Remember Cory Booker, bathhouse Booker, going like this for 24, 26 hours, whatever the hell it was? Well, guess what? The minute they pass out and stop talking, the vote starts. Okay? So that's how we're going to pass this. Now, the only question that I don't know is when. I was trying to look online. When, now that we have the votes secured, when are they going to pass it? When are they going to vote on this? Where, there's no information yet on that. When that comes, I certainly will let you all know. But I want to point out a couple things here. Why did Susan Collins all of a sudden change? It's pretty simple. She's running for re-election. Hell, Dan, our buddy, is running against her right now in Maine as a write-in candidate. I don't know if she's feeling the heat from him or she's feeling the heat from Nazi Nipples or Janet Mills or whoever it might be, but she's been in that position for years. And remember, during the Kavanaugh confirmations, she did what? At the very end, she flipped and she voted for Kavanaugh. Hasn't turned out to be the greatest Supreme Court justice, but whatever, he's been halfway decent. Not perfect, but halfway decent. But again, self-preservation is a motivator. How many times have I said these Congress critters, these senators, they will do things when we pressure them. If they feel as though that they're on the outside or that they could lose or they could have a hard re-election, whatever it might be, if we put the pressure, and we've been doing this for years, doing these types of campaigns. It's not just me, many others. I'm not tooting my horn here that it's only me, but of course I've been doing a lot of it myself as well with all of you. But it goes to show you that when we do these pressure campaigns, we can win. That's why I do them. I don't do them for my health. Clearly, I do it so that we can win. So that's one of the reasons why she folded. What's another reason? It's very simple. Why did the rest of them fold? It's very simple. Because the Senate Majority Leader co-sponsored the SAVE Act. What did that do? It opened the floodgates. It gave cover for all the other ones to jump on board like the little ant trail that they are and follow the leader. And that's how the Senate works. And that's how Congress works. Is it the right way to do things? No, not really. But it's the way that they do things. Okay? So at this point right now, let's just be absolutely thrilled. Thrilled. And I said this before. This is the one piece of legislation that is most important. And by the way, let's also talk about something else here. Let's talk about the fact that the Supreme Court still hasn't made a decision on the Voting Rights Act and Section 2. They do that. They eliminate that. They eliminate this gerrymandering bullshit that's been going on for 30, 40 years. Guess what? It's going to be that much easier for Republicans to continue to win elections and stay in power. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.